Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But do me a favor first. Hit that thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe and share this video, if you will. It really helps us out. We really do appreciate it. But we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Above Snakes, issue number 1, from Image Comics. Now, this is written by Sean Lewis with artwork by Hayden Sherman and lettering by Hassan Otsman-El-How, and I thought this was far and above the best comic book I read this week that was new. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, I got to read this book about a month ago. We had Sean Lewis on the channel. If you missed that episode, it was a great conversation. Sean's a super cool dude. Also writing King Spawn, which we'll be talking about momentarily. But the artwork is by Hayden Sherman. We spent a good bit of that conversation talking about how amazing Hayden Sherman is as a comic book artist. Hayden has only continued to evolve and impress me every single time they've worked on a book. Wasted Space, The Few, and Thumbs. Also with Sean Lewis, the artwork in Above Snakes, some of the best of Sherman's career. The color choices are impeccable. They're different color choices than one would typically see, but it works so well for the appropriate tone of this story. Let's talk about the story. What is this? This is a Western. Not only is it a Western, it is a Western revenge tale. So it's about this main character. His wife has been murdered or something by this gang called Above Snakes, the Above Snakes gang, and he just meanders around in beautiful Technicolor, just meanders around trying to exact revenge for his dead wife, right? And it's a simple story. It's really that. He's also joined by this talking bird that kind of encourages him on this path of revenge and violence and brutality. I absolutely love the book. I think the artwork was innovative, experimental. The color choices were bold, daring, and they worked for me. The lettering by Hassan Otsman-El-How is tip-top. There's a bit in here where you see a reflection, a dude's face in the reflection, and the lettering is in the reflection. It's so freaking cool. I love this book. I thought it had a great, solid story. It never felt dull or boring. It just It enthralled me all the way through. Majestic artwork, a really solid story, and just told in an impeccably, perfectly crafted way. That's Above Snakes number 1. That's the pick of the week right there. Also from Image, we have King Spawn, issue number 12, also written by Sean Lewis. So in that conversation with Sean Lewis, of course, we talked a lot about King Spawn, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you only ever read like the first 10 to 20 issues of Spawn, and you hear all this talk about all these Spawn books, and how cool and how fun and how dynamic they are, and you've wanted to jump in, just jump in with King Spawn. You don't need to get caught up on 300 plus issues of Spawn. You can start reading this and just enjoy it. And now it has ramped up to a point. Holy cow, I do believe here with issue number 12, we are at the end of what will be collected in the second trade paperback for King Spawn. So we need to hit a height here, and we definitely do. We've got Terry kind of making some bonehead decisions, but there's something else involved there. You got a really frantic, energetic, bombastic fight with Spawn and some angels, and the way that Spawn kind of flips the script on this fight, I really liked. Thought it was super solid, and an ending that's just got me like, man, I cannot wait. I'm loving what Sean Lewis and Javi Fernandez are doing on King Spawn. It is by far my favorite Spawn title right now. King Spawn. Y'all get in on it right now. We also get Impact Winter number 1. This is a one-shot comic book. Impact Winter is written by Travis Beacham, who I believe is one of the writers, or the writer, on Pacific Rim. And it does kind of say that here. Probably should have read the whole end at the back. Now, when I was at Heroes Con, I actually got to have a little bit of a conversation with the artist, Stephen Green. Stephen Green was talking about this book and seemed really excited. I got to see some original pages from it, and I love Stephen Green's artwork. He was the artist on Sea of Stars. He's got some upcoming work that's going to be a pretty big deal. But Impact Winter, one thing that I love about Stephen Green's artwork is his ability to spot blacks. It is absolutely amazing. His clear definition of foreground, midground, and background All that kind of stuff is right there in a very Mignola-esque way. And I'm not talking about the style of the line because that is different, but using different textures, using different tones, including spotting blacks to provide that depth of field gives this book a lot of darkness and a lot of dimension and a lot of enticement as you're reading it visually. It is a post-apocalyptic vampire story with a little bit of a twist here and there. I really liked it. I was engaged with this character. I was engaged and interested in this world, and I really liked this spin on a post-apocalyptic tale, and also this spin on a vampire tale. It actually worked really well. Now, of course, this is just a one-shot, but it does seem like it's setting up something to come, so I would love to see this world get visited back. Love the artwork, love the concept, like the character. Impact Winter, pretty solid one-shot. Then we got 8 Billion Genies, issue number 3 from Image Comics. This is from Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. I'm loving this book. So, the premise of 8 Billion Genies, and it just got announced for like a movie or TV show right now, so like those prices are heating up on the first issue, but it's a great story with really solid, quirky, and amusing artwork and some nice little bits here and there. But mostly, it's all about these people that are stuck in this bar. Meanwhile, the rest of the world, everybody on Earth has got a genie. So people just start making these ultimately ridiculous and half-assed wishes, and the world just descends into pure chaos. But as long as this group of people are in this bar, they're going to maintain their safety because of the wish that the bartender makes. But a bunch of different characters, lots of interesting concepts. So it's got the humor, it's got the unexpected kind of humor bits, but it also does have a nice thread of humanity, of an actual emotional core to the story that's really keeping my attention, as well as the concept and the quirky, humorous nature of it. 8 Billion Genies continues to soar with issue number 3. Then we got A Town Called Terror, issue number 4. This is a rather simple story, but I love the artwork. It's about a dude who's from a town full of like monsters and scary things, including his family. We're learning a little bit more about who he is. He's been beckoned to go back home, even though he doesn't want to, by his father. He doesn't have a good relationship with his father, but his mother's died or something is happening. He needs to go back. He doesn't want to, but you kind of find out the ulterior motive to getting him back in this issue. I think it's great. I love the artwork by Simon Kudronsky. It's written by Steve Niles. He's done great work before with 30 Days of Night, the Criminal Macabre series. So Town Called Terror, I'm really, really enjoying it. Feels like we're hitting a big point here, too, where we're getting into, I don't know how long the series is going, but if it's just like a 5, 6, 7 issue miniseries, we're nearing the end game with the way that they hyped up everything here. Really liked it. Town Called Terror. It's scratching those itches. Then we got 7174 Presents Haunted Universes, issue number 1. Picked this up because I'm a big fan of Ashley Wood's artwork. I think Ashley Wood is a fantastic artist, very much in a Sienkiewicz type way, but he has actually, over the years, distanced himself from that comparison, as kind of doing his own style and stuff. I loved the art. Oh, can't show you that page. I loved the artwork in this book. Story-wise, I was rather confused. There's like some sex, there's some magic. Seems like it would be up my alley, but I found myself rather confused by the story. Couldn't quite get into the narrative flow, but I was amazed at every single page of the artwork. I thought that was cool. So if you like Ashley Wood, if you like something different, something unique, maybe you want to check this one out for the art's sake. From Marvel, we got Daredevil number 1, a brand new Daredevil. And I noticed that in the legacy numbering, it's 649, which means that next issue should be issue 650. Are they not going to do a giant exercise milestone issue? Interesting. Daredevil number 1, though, still written by Chip Zdarsky. Still got artwork by Marco Cicchetto. There's also a backup story in here, so the majority of this issue is a Matt Murdock story, and there's like a backup in the back that's kind of like an Elektra story. See, Elektra and Daredevil are now going to team up and go and be the leaders of the Fist and try to take out the Hand. I sense a Punisher crossover coming soon. Trust me, it's gonna happen. How does the book go, though? It's kind of just okay. As far as in issue number 1, it kind of sucks. It does not do a good job of in issue number 1. If you have not been reading Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, yeah, they fill you in on what's going on with a bunch of exposition, but it never feels engaging, never feels like it's going to hook in a new reader. And even those of us who read all of Zdarsky's run, for the most part, liked it. Devil's Reign, it's been a bit. Now we're moving into here. It just feels like it's lost a lot of momentum, and one of the great things about a good first issue is you get the chance to just start over, start fresh, and just move and have that momentum going, and then you got to keep it up. This book starts already stagnant in its momentum. It just feels like a step back or two when really we need something a little bit more engaging, a little bit more enthralling, and this just kind of feels more like an epilogue to the previous run than the start of something new. Even though there is a new direction to go, still feels it's just not there. Just not there. Then we got Avengers XMen Eternals, Eve of Judgment. So this is not the first full-on issue of this upcoming crossover between the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Eternals, but this is the preamble. This is your chance, if you haven't been reading X-Men or Avengers or the Eternals, this is your chance to kind of get caught up on the gist if you're just not wanting to read the solicitation, because that's all this does, is just basically show you or reveal what's already been revealed in the solicitation. Basically, the Eternals, a segment of the Eternals, are trying to take out the X-Men because they think that they're like excess deviation because now they are immortal, and the Avengers are kind of caught in the middle of it, right? So this feels more like an issue of Eternals more than anything else, but all it is trying to do is just set up who are these Eternals, where are we at. I think they know most people didn't read that Eternals book, and they're trying to get everybody on board, but for me, bored is the word right there. I was just bored reading this one, and that's how I felt reading Karen Gillan's Eternals book when I was trying to get into that, is how I felt reading Karen Gillan's Immortal X-Men. In fact, there's a new issue of Immortal X-Men today, but I just said, you know what? It's just boring to me. I'm not going to read it. I know a lot of people are digging it, and I'm glad you are. If you're liking what Gillan's building up to, you probably want to jump in on this one. But for me, it's just not working. Then we got... excuse me, what the hell was that? Then we got Star Wars The Mandalorian, issue number 1. So a lot of people are hyping this up, making it a big deal. They're saying it's the first appearance of The Mandalorian. I disagree. I think the first appearance of The Mandalorian is in Mandalorian episode 1. But whatever. If you want to have the comic book first appearance, I think he was on that cover for that Vader issue, whatever. But anyway, all that aside, the issue's okay. It's Georges Genti's artwork is really solid, but the story, it's just an adaptation of The Mandalorian Season 1. That's all it is. So it doesn't really do much for me. I like The Mandalorian. I'd rather just watch the first episode of The Mandalorian than read a comic book that's just an adaptation. But Star Wars nuts, Mando heads, you might want to consider checking that out because they're probably going to disappear pretty quick. Then we got Punisher, issue number 4, Jason Aaron. Punisher is now the leader of the Hand. He's the scion of the beast or whatever the hell, and it seems like it wouldn't work, but it's working for me. It is working so well. There are some more kind of hints at what's kind of maybe actually going on behind the scenes here, and I appreciated that. But I really like this run. Frank Castle is definitely out of place with the sword, with a bunch of evil ninjas, but he's still Frank Castle. There's still something going on, and they got a lure to keep him there, but there's more going on to it than that. Plus this interesting juxtaposition between the Hand and what they represent, and Ares as a god of war and what he represents, and how Frank has kind of been stolen from Ares. So that conflict is even kind of deepening a little bit for me. I love Paul Azuceta's artwork here on the flashbacks. I love Jesus Saez here on the modern day story. I love the artwork. I'm liking the story. I'm liking the direction. I'm liking the characterizations. 4 issues in, I'm rather liking that Punisher book that will probably be crossing over with Daredevil some point in this year. Then we got Moon Knight here with issue number 13. I liked this issue of Moon Knight. So in the last issue, they kind of wrapped up all the stuff that had been building up for the first 12 issues. But unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they didn't solve everything. They still got story elements that were building up that they can now use as the direction going forward. That mostly involving this vampire pyramid scheme that's going on. Moon Knight, a lot of this issue is Taskmaster basically telling somebody who's trying to hire him why Moon Knight's like pretty badass, and so you actually get to see it too, so it's not just shown. This artist here is not the typical artist, but this is the artist, Federico Sabatini, who at one point did a fill-in issue and I did not like, and like was not drawing noses, and the colorist didn't give them any help. But in this one, I see all the noses and it's got some pretty dynamic artwork. So overall, I rather like this issue of Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight's been a very solid book. Jen McKay's doing a great job with that title. Then we got Fantastic Four 45. This is Dan Slott's penultimate issue of the Fantastic Four, and it wraps up the Reckoning War, and basically all the big explosive finale stuff happened in the last issue. This issue was spent kind of just cleaning things up, setting up Uatu to be a little bit more like the MCU What If version of Uatu, and that's cool, and I'm digging it. But all in all, I kind of liked it. I thought the Reckoning War was a nice big capstone to Dan Slott's run, which I thought was a bit uneven, but overall pretty decent. And I liked this Reckoning War. I liked the way it wraps up. There's a lot of setup here. He still has one more issue. We're promised something big, maybe the death of a member of the Fantastic Four. I certainly hope not, but I did like this issue, and even if this was the final issue, it would have really won me over. So I liked it. Fantastic Four, number 45. Then we got Avengers, that's Savage Avengers, issue number 3. This is from David Pepose, Carlo Magno, I believe, on the artwork. Yeah, Carlos Magno. I like this book. I think it's a cool, interesting story. It's basically Terminator versus Conan with some, like, D and C and B list, and to me, A-list Marvel characters, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a big fan of Elektra. Elektra's Daredevil's in here. You got Flash Thompson, Anti-Venom, and of course you got Conan. Basically, Deathlock has come from the future to take out Conan for crimes against the timeline. Sound familiar? Well, it's TVA type stuff. TVA? Time Variance Authority, yeah. Tennessee Valley Authority. There's TVA. Anyway, I just distracted myself for no reason. It does. Just we'll move on. We'll just move on. Can we just move on? All right. Savage Avengers, pretty solid. I really like it. They're back into Conan's time now. So you got Deathlock, you got Conan, you got Conan's enemies from back then, and you got the Savage Avengers. So everything's working really well. And David Pepose is using characters that I usually don't care about, like Weapon H, and actually making them rather engaging and enthralling and compelling. That's the word I wanted to use. But I'm liking it, and the end of this issue has a big, like, whoa, interesting idea. I want to see how they develop that. From DC, we have Dark Crisis, Worlds Without a Justice League, Superman #1. This is a one-shot comic book, the start of a series of one-shot comic books tying into Dark Crisis, but not in a way that this is 100% essential at all for your understanding of Dark Crisis. I think that so far, with the way everything's been structured out, just read Dark Crisis. You're going to get the full story here. But after the death of the Justice Leagues, we have found out that Pariah has actually done something else with the Justice League. What he's done is he's created a world in and of themselves. So Superman's got his own world. Wonder Woman's got her own world. Aquaman's got his own world. It's almost like he's giving them this world to exist in that fulfills their greatest wish. And in this one, it's an alternate reality. Superman's there. It is our Superman, but it's a new world, an Elseworlds for him, in which he actually is... Jonathan kind of grows up being his sidekick in a very Robin-esque type way. You got artwork by Chris Burnham. It's written by Tom King, and I really liked it. I thought it was kind of strong. It had an emotional chord. I think fans of the Tomasi Superman run might like this one. I think Tom King did a good job with it, and the artwork was super cool too. There is a backup story. It's Aquaman. He doesn't get his own one-shot. They just give him the backup story, whatever. But he's in Atlantis. Everything's happy. He's got this big happy family, but he kind of realizes, yo, this ain't real. I can't wait to get out of here and kick some ass. So this is not essential, but I rather liked it. Then we have Rogues, issue number 3. This is from DC Black Label, written by Joshua Williamson, with artwork by Leo Max, coloring by Jason Wordie. I love this book. So it is a mature reader's heist story featuring the Rogues, right? So it's out of continuity, so you can kind of play a little loose and a little free. The Rogues are a little bit older. Some of them have tried to go straight. Others can't get their shit together. Captain Cold pulls them together for one last heist. They want to go to Gorilla City and rob it of all of Gorilla Grodd's gold. This is the issue of the actual heist, and like any good heist story, it doesn't necessarily go as planned. This has got great action, intensely great characterizations. It is absolutely amazing. The artwork pops so much, especially in this format. I love the hell out of that. From Vault Comics, we have Barbaric, The Harvest Blades. This is a one-shot, so the next mini-series for Barbaric starts in like August or September, something like that. But until then, we can whet our appetites on this oversized one-shot that I rather enjoyed. It is written by Michael Morisi, so it's got that kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of flair, that philosophical attitude, but kind of poking fun of it at the same time. Barbaric is the story of this dude named Owen the Barbarian. You get it? He's got this talking axe. He's been cursed by these witches. Whenever he finds somebody who's in need of help, he is cursed to help them. He's immortal, but he always has to help anybody who's in help, guided by his talking axe, who likes to drink the blood of his victims, and in doing so, gets very, very drunk. So this is a nice kind of solo tale, but he's teamed up with some new characters. It introduces a new character that's probably going to be a little bit more of a bigger deal going forward in future series, but we shall see. But all in all, I liked it. It's irreverent, it's raunchy, it's ridiculous, and at the same time, very solid. Artwork here is okay, not quite as sophisticated to me as what Gooden brought on the initial miniseries, but it was still workable, it was doable, and it told the story and did it in a very efficient manner. I loved this book. I thought it was great. Also from Vault, we have West of Sundown, issue number 4. The first issue of this Western vampire tale really kind of won me over, and each issue since has just gotten less and less exciting for me, including here. So you have so many elements, including this awesome cover. Is that an Aaron Campbell cover? Yeah. This cover is absolutely freaking amazing. But you got this like Frankenstein monster dude who's like trying to hunt down this vampire, and they're trying to find her native soil. They wind up in this other dimension that's going on, and it sounds like it should be interesting, but it was just kind of stiff, stagnant, and boring for me. So West of Sundown is probably the last one I'm going to read of that. Then we got Quests Aside, issue number 3. This is one I thought I would just read the first issue, not really be for me, because I'm not really necessarily a D&D fantasy kind of guy. So I thought I'd read this first issue and kind of be done with it. But this, unlike West of Sundown, has intrigued me more and more each issue. So it's about this bar in this D&D type world. I guess if you play D&D, there's this bar that usually where you go to and everybody gathers there and people come and like, hey, I need a party for a quest or something like that. But the dude who runs this bar, and this is all he wants to do is run this bar, he's been told by his king, who's a former friend of his, yo, I'm going to take your bar. So either I'm going to give you money and you're going to leave and I'll take over your bar and make it like a barracks or something, or I'm just going to come here with my men and kill all y'all and take it, right? And he's kind of been holding this within, trying to formulate his plan. Meanwhile, there's more going on with him, and there's more going on with these characters that work at this bar, and also the people that populate it. And it's very interesting. It's really fun. It's really fresh, and I'm excited by it. I'm intrigued every issue. I am not a D&D fantasy kind of guy. Love this book. Not the only D&D inspired book that I like this week. Then we get Dig, a Sync Tale. This is from John Lees and Alex Cormack, friends of the show. We had them on actually right as they were first crowdfunding this book. So this is set in the world of Sync. Sync is a comic book set in Glasgow, Scotland. It's a crime, thriller, horror type book. It's an anthology. Each issue is their own. But there is this figure named Mr. Dig. He's a dude who wears a fox mask, and he's like their vigilante. He's their brutal vigilante of justice, right? This is his story. This is his story of his past, who he is, what his world is like, how he became Mr. Dig here, and also just a very brutal story in the Sync fashion. The artwork by Cormac is absolutely top-notch, textured, gnarly, lots of splatter, nice effects, dark, really cool stuff, violent, brutally violent, bloody, and the writing by John Lees is absolutely amazing. If you've never read Sync, I highly encourage you to do so. You can read this without having read Sync, but you will definitely appreciate this more if you have read Sync. If you haven't, read it, because Sync's coming back for Volume 3, but it's nice to have this. It's $7.99, but it's super thick, a lot to it, and like I said, just some really great artwork. This is the exact same creative team of Crimson Cage, so if you read that book and enjoyed it, like I did, you definitely need to jump in on Sync, and you can start right here with Dig, a Sync Tale. Then from Dynamite, we have Army of Darkness versus Reanimator, Necronomicon Rising. I liked this story. I thought it was a really cool premise. So in the Dynamite books in Army of Darkness, Ash is always being led on these quests where he has to find the Necronomicon and stop it. Meanwhile, what's happened here is that somebody has uncovered like a 1,000-year-old relic. It's a fully intact corpse head. So West hears about it. Of course, he's the Reanimator. He takes his reagent, injects it into the head. The head comes back to life. It's Evil Ash's head from the end of Army of Darkness. So that's pretty cool. So now you got Evil Ash with Herbert West, Reanimator, and then you got Ash, regular Ash, dealing with the Deadites in his own, and they're all going to come together. I thought this was actually well done. Written by Eric Burnham. Artwork was pretty solid too. Then we got Immortal Red Sonja, issue number 4. The basic premise of this, and it goes a little bit into like King Arthurian legends and stuff like that, but Red Sonja has put on this chainmail shirt that's cursed. And the curse is that she's now immortal, but she can never take it off, and there's all kinds of other things. She's trying to figure out how to get this curse removed from her, and this is an interesting book. Dan Abnett is the writer. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not like super wacky, but it is kind of fun and a little bit lighthearted, but I'm having fun with it. Really like this issue. Some nice, gnarly kind of battle stuff going on with these lake creatures. She's trying to find the lady in the lake. She finds something that she wasn't trying to get. I really liked it. Immortal Red Sonja I'm finding it enjoyable, is what I was trying to say there. Then we got Space Lady issue number 1. This is from Behemoth. This one is very interesting. This is from Icky Comics. It's not going to be to everybody's liking. Most people probably won't like this artwork, even me. I just couldn't quite get into it at first, but then the story was so absurd and funny. I loved it. So Space Lady is superhero. She wakes up super hungover. She gets these alerts. Yo, we got all these crimes we need to stop. She's like, yo, I got to go back to bed. I'm hungover. So then it's like hangover protocol. And then they send out all these robots to go and like, just tear ass on the criminal elements. But then there's more to it involved in that in the 3rd act of this issue. I liked it. I thought the story was really fun, kind of charming. Art may not to be to everybody's taste, but it did enough to get the job done and to tell the story, and the story was quite delightful. So I thought Space Lady was pretty cool. Maybe one of your sleeper hits of the week. Then we got Bill and Ted Roll the Dice, issue number 2. I'm a huge Bill and Ted fan. Station. I'm not really into D&D or fantasy. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm always down for a new Bill and Ted comic, but it's kind of like going to be fantasy-based. Nah, this book is awesome. It is a direct sequel to Bogus Journey. Bill and Ted have returned to hell. The devil is really pissed off that they got away from him, so he's put them in this thing where they have to agree to play a game, and if they win, they'll save their souls, but if they lose, they're going to stay in hell. So it's a little bit of a throwback to the games with death, but the game they have to play is D&D, and it's real life. And in this issue, they get their raiding party, and of course Bill and Ted think that means something else when they say, hey, let's get a party together, but they pick people from the past in your typical Bill and Ted fashion. We got a return of a favorite character of mine from the first Bill and Ted movie, but we also got some new characters we've never seen Bill and Ted interact with, and that was interesting. So they got the voices of the character. James Asmus is the writer here. Nailing it. Loving it. 100%. Archer and Armstrong Forever, issue number 3. I'm still enjoying this book. It's light. It's not super heavy, but it's fun. And I think that Valiant is about to turn a corner, because we got Dennis Camp and John Davis Hunt coming up on Bloodshot. We got Book of Shadows with Cullen Bunn. We got Liam Sharp about to do the artwork on Exo Manowar at the end of the year. Archer and Armstrong Forever is a really solid book. So one of these guys is immortal. I can never remember if it's Archer or Armstrong, but now he's not immortal, and his partner is freaking out, and they're trying to find ways to regain his immortality, and it keeps taking them into these crazy situations. This book is fun. It's got a great frantic sense of adventure and mischievousness to it. I find myself having a lot of joy in my life while I'm reading Archer and Armstrong. Then we got Think Tank, issue number 2. I loved the first issue of this. This is a anthology series by Greg Hurwitz, and the first issue was a really interesting story. Each issue is going to be a different story, a different artist. And the first issue is about phones actually being like this invasive alien race that has successfully taken over the planet and subjugated humanity. That was wild. This one is more about the power of stories and storytellers, and it's not really science fiction. I was expecting these to mostly be sci-fi, kind of dark tales, but they're not. This one went a little bit more fantasy, and it just kind of threw me off, and I didn't really like this one near as much. So I thought it was okay, but I don't know, not for a full issue, maybe like an 8-pager or something like that. Then we got the Killlock Artisan Wraith, issue number 5 from IDW. I love the Killlock, but in this issue, it started kind of dulling me out. I think my biggest problem is when we're dealing with the Wraiths, which are a certain type of robot in this world. They have a different type of font that is rather difficult to read, and there were plenty of pages with a lot of that font, and it just kind of stunted it. It was a shame because the artwork in this book is amazing. It usually does a really good job of getting right to the core of a very human story, even though it is about robots, and it is something that was missing for me in this issue, so I'm still loving this series. I still think it's definitely worth reading, especially if you watched or read the original Killlock series, but this issue was probably one of the weaker ones of this one for me, of that volume, I would say. Then we got Power Rangers issue number 21. I just don't care anymore. I don't care about Power Rangers at all. I have, like, purged all of it. Like, I still like Super Sentai. I still have some of the toys over there. But reading this book, it's just not doing anything for me. And this issue in particular, they're building all this stuff up to issue number 100. They got Power Rangers in space or all this kind of stuff. And I'm just finding myself not caring anymore. And not to say that the book isn't good, but I'm just losing my interest in this Power Rangers world and where they're going. And of course, I'm going to build up to issue 100 just to see what they do, but not that anything bad, like it's not that the book has gotten worse, but I'm just not as into it as I was. So Power Rangers 21, I don't even know. I mean, to be honest, I actually stopped buying the Power Ranger books a couple issues ago. So there you go. Army of Darkness Reanimator was very impressive to me. Space Lady may not be to everybody's taste, but if you like something different and quirky, check it out. Bill and Ted Station, y'all. Archer and Armstrong is fun. Killlock and New Think were a little disappointed. Barbaric, though, was super cool. Then we got Dig, The Return of Sync. Y'all definitely need to check that out. Rogues, not only the best DC book this week, but one of the best, period. Daredevil, not working for me. Neither is this Axe. I hate calling it Axe. Hey, the Mandalorian's appeared. Who's that character? Punisher is really cool. Moon Knight was awesome. Savage Avengers was decent. What else we got here? What else we got here? Let's run through this one more time. Town Called Terror is awesome. 8 Billion Genies keeps just bringing the hits. Impact Winter, a really cool post-apocalyptic vampire story. But King Spawn, very solid and above Snakes. Impeccable artwork, amazing lettering, and a really compelling story that just hooks you. This was the greatest experience I had reading a comic this week, right there. So that's what I read, that's what I dug, that's what I'm thinking. What are you reading? What are you digging? What are you thinking? Let us know in the comments down below. Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and like I said at the beginning, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a little bit more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station. Keep on reading. Pop, pop, ba-boom.